30 we will have that update, so there will be that official briefing. You will see it here on SABC2 and on the SABC News channel. Let's just pick up on this issue around smaller parties, possibly because we might not see some of them for some time after this. Professor Ntletiana, do you think these sorts of parties are going to always be with us? And let me explain why I asked that question, because we seem to have a flourishing of new parties, or maybe at least a germination of new parties at the moment. I mean, we have the ZA, the South African Capitalist Party, we have Taxi Party, we have ATM, we have lots of other parties, ACM, that seem to have come, not quite from nowhere, but almost nowhere in some ways, in the public perception at least. So you would think that maybe we're going to have a lot more voices and people have a lot more choice. And yet, the way you've been talking about parties that you call patronage parties, you suggest they're all doomed, they don't really have a future. So my question really, to sum it up, is to suggest, do you think we're always going to have parties like this that seem to rest on one leader?
Well, egos will never disappear, Stephen.
They're usually led by men, I notice.
Yeah, they're individuals with, inflated sense of self, really. Because the Party for Capitalism, for instance, right? If that fellow really believed in capitalism, the DA speaks to capitalism to some degree, so it would make sense to join the DA. Hlaudi Motsoeneng, who used to be very prominent in this institution, thinks that he has something to offer, and you listen to him. He is completely incoherent. Right? And for some reason, he believes that he can be, actually does say that he can make the best president, right? So you have individuals like that, and these are comical figures, these are clowns, right? So for some reason, though, they still manage to get money to register. So you will have, there are parties at times that are formed out a very strong gripe. They speak to a particular constituency. Yes, the EFF is largely a patron-based party, but they're also formed around a particular ideology. They're pushing populism quite strong, and they have a constituency that they are targeting. So for them, that explains why they've managed to grow, right? But by and large, I mean, some of these folks, ATA, Taxi Association, what exactly are they bringing that's different from the rest of the parties? So my point is ultimately, Stephen, as long as you have egos, you'll always have new parties.
Do you think that the parties we have are different from in other places? I mean, India, for example, a country quite similar to us in many ways, has many parties like this, often centered around an actor or an actress.
There are those, and even in Western democracies. I mean, British politics is full of very odd parties that you often can't tell if people are being parodied or if the system is being parodied. And sometimes the parody becomes a real political figure and force. Let's not forget, the most powerful industrial military complex in the world is, headed by somebody that many people dismissed as a clown who could never possibly get in, and made remarks about the orange, fake suntan. But in the United Kingdom, somebody like Nigel Farage was dismissed as hilarious and a marginal figure, and has now become somebody that actually has shifted political discourse in the country. In South Africa, we haven't yet entered that space. We almost got into that space in some respects. But there's also a tradition of parties that have a long history in South Africa's liberation struggle, who are now in the process of exiting the electoral process. So the Azanian People's Organization was the first to do so in 2014. People have questions about whether the Pan-Africanist People's Congress will continue to exist in Parliament. So there are those formations which are different from new formations, and some of them are, I agree with you, ego-driven, but some of them are also opportunistic. I maintain that if you can get enough people to give you a seat in Parliament, it's a very nice income. It's 1.2 million, there's nice housing in Cape Town for when Parliament is in session, there are all sorts of perks attached to it, and you have 5 years of employment based on having sold a Wizard of Oz style, man behind the green curtain, don't pay attention to him, dream. And I think for me, there's a distinction between people who have principles that may be quixotic and may go nowhere, and people who actually are using the system in order to enrich themselves and use this in order to gain a certain kind of prominence. That said, I think my last remark on this is every election has these parties. If we go back to 1994, there was the Federal Party of Francis Kendall, there was the Soccer Party, there was the Dacha Party, there was the KISS Party. None of those parties went anywhere, and I think that was because These people saw a chance, it didn't work out, and they've disappeared.
In fact, I think former President Kgalema Motlanthe expressed sorrow today while he was voting at the demise of the Keep It Straight and Simple party. For some reason, KISS is a party name that everyone remembers. All right, just to update you, a couple of minutes now away from the first sort of briefing of the night after voting is finished. Now, I can't guarantee that we are going to actually get results from them yet. I suspect what we might get is an update on how the voting went. In other words, we might get official confirmation that voting has now finished. I'm told it's about 4 or 5 minutes away before we actually start to get that briefing. It'll be the CEO and the commissioners of the Electoral Commission who will brief you. You'll see that live, and we'll take our analysts by the hand if we have to down to the floor, and we'll be able to watch and take questions from that situation there. So we'll be doing that. You'll have lots of live coverage here as we go through the evening. All right, Professor Ndledana, we've got a few minutes before we get that briefing. We hope it will be about results. I think it's probably too soon, but I was born an optimist. When we have a situation like this, I mean, you've got the Electoral Commission, you've got this constant desire for information. It's quite important to fill it. If you don't fill it, you have a vacuum, and that actually allows all sorts of other things to happen.
People start speculating. Social media is good. It gets people to communicate, people from distance.
Going to be Kate Papela, the national spokesperson of the IEC. She was the person who made the announcement 10 minutes ago that there would be a briefing. So I'm expecting that it will be she who speaks first and is the voice that you will hear. So that is what is happening here at the Electoral Commission. I can see on screens, and I can sort of turn in one direction and I can start to see what is beginning to happen. You can see a large number of people preparing for that press conference. Of course, one of the things that's happening is a large number of journalists are getting ready as well. It looks like they're about to start.
Welcome to another briefing from the Electoral Commission. I'm going to allow Commissioner Myepya to come and read the statement. Then we'll take it from there. Ndete Msotho?
Thank you, Mebapela. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, South Africa. In the light of serious allegations regarding 2 potential instances of double voting, the Electoral Commission would like to assure voters and all stakeholders of the overall integrity of the electoral process. 2 separate instances have been brought to the attention of the Electoral Commission over the past few hours, in which it is alleged voters were able to cast more than 1 vote at different voting stations. Fortunately, the election process contains a number of checks and safeguards which together serve to protect the integrity of the process. The layers of security include: 1, the voters' roll, which only allows registered voters to vote and only allows for a single registration per voter. 2, the requirement for voters to produce a valid ID document before they vote. 3, the scanning of ID documents prior to voting. 4, the marking of a voter's thumb with ink. May I say indelible ink. 5, the completion of a form containing the details of voters and the signing of a sworn declaration by voters where they vote at a voting station at which they are not registered. 6, party agents and observers monitoring all aspects of the voting, the counting, and the results capturing processes. 7, an inbuilt system-based exception report or reporting process for which various tolerance levels have been set. These exception reports are very well known to all of our political parties and the media as we provide these reports. And lastly, we capture these results and keep them on our systems in a scanned format where they can be recalled individually. All of these leave a detailed footprint of voter participation in the process and can be used both separately and in combination to identify instances of electoral fraud. As part of the process of finalizing the results of the elections, the Commission will assess data from scanners, VEC forms. These are forms used when voters vote outside of their voting districts, and the voters' roll to identify any potential risks. Where evidence is found to support electoral fraud, the Electoral Commission will firstly quarantine the results of the affected voting districts, and secondly, will pursue criminal charges against the perpetrators, who will be very well known to us. We have indicated that they would have left footprints with us, and we will pursue those footprints. The electoral process also allows for objections to be raised by political parties throughout the process. This includes instances where they believe a voter was ineligible to vote or has voted more than once. The Electoral Commission appeals to any party or person who may have evidence of any electoral fraud or significant irregularity to report this immediately so that it can be thoroughly investigated. The Electoral Commission will not allow the potential misconduct of one or two individuals, be they voters or election officials, to taint the overall outcome of these elections. The integrity of the results is paramount to the credibility of all elections, and the election results are only finally captured and displayed in the results system where the Commission is satisfied in the integrity of these results. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Commissioner Muepya. I'll open the floor for questions, for clarity, and then we'll be wrapping up the evening's proceedings. As you may know that our officials are on the ground preparing to count. Some are still assisting voters. So we're going to keep this press briefing as short as possible. May I take, I've got two questions from the back.
Thank you, Kanangedi.
Yes,
it's Isak du Plessis, RSG from the SABC. You mentioned a few procedures that you have in place for security, and in many instances, most of those security measures have been broken. The mark on the nail could be washed off. There are scanners that was not working at various places. People, like you also said, that voted twice, things like that. If you get broken security measures like that in various instances, how can it be trusted?
Thank you. I will build on Isak's question, and the question is as follows. 7 issues were listed which would make us feel secure about our system. But everybody knows that basically it's down to the ink, because it was stated at the 5 o'clock press briefing that actually the zip machines are only used internally in every voting station. We all know that the voting roll is only for that voting station, etc., etc. The ID book and the ID card can no longer each have a sticker in it because the ID card cannot carry the sticker, etc. The whole integrity of this election hinges on the point whether people can vote twice or not. We all know that the number of people is much higher than 2. We also know that there's even an MP here who will show you that that ink is not indelible. It is not indelible. It's no longer there. So, are you being straight with us? And is there a way to audit? This is the first time I've covered 8 elections which we've had this kind of problem on this kind of scale, and where we've had a press conference specifically called for this purpose. Is there a way, differently from the past, to audit the results so that they are credible and our democratic process is safe?
There's a hand at the back. I've got last 2 in front.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Dr. Sipoklipo from CPM. My question is, when are we gonna go digital? We're living in a digital environment, in a paperless situation. It is very clear that the current manual system we're using is not credible at all. When are we gonna go digital?
We're 2 in front.
Good evening. My name is Natasha from the SABC. Ma'am Kate, I just want to know, is IEC not worried about some IEC officials who seem to be ignorant of, voting procedures? I mean, you have so many cases where people were told to take off their fake nails. Just some clarity on that, please.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Clement Manyatela from Eyewitness News. I wanted to ask about, at what point do you pick up the discrepancy? And you mentioned that you would have to do an investigation. There are layers of other security measures. How impactful is that going to be on the announcements of the results? When you pick up that discrepancy and you investigate, will that impact on the announcement? Could we see the announcement of the result being later as a result of the investigations? Thank you.
Sophie Mkwena from the SABC. I was at Morningside this morning at a voting station. Officials were quite confused. At some point in time, they didn't give voters those stickers. And when they went inside, some officials were questioning whether they can come in and cast their ballots. Was there proper training for officials? Because as a country, we were fully aware that a lot is at stake in terms of these elections.
Right, thank you. Let me allow Commissioner Mepja.
Thank you very much. I think we must say, as a nation, we have come this far because we have prized integrity of results above anything else. We have put those systems in place. They have transparency. We have invested significantly in the systems. Political parties, yourselves in the media, know that. What the situation today, or the allegations that we have brought to our attention, and you will appreciate that the entire commission, our executives are here. We are going to deal with these things because we view them seriously. It cannot be that with all of the measures that we have given to you and said to you, this is how the systems are going to work, there will be anything hidden away from you. I think for us, that's a point of departure. We've never been here before. It is possible that something has happened. We are saying we will pursue every one of those instances that have been brought to our attention. But let me deal with the issues you raised substantively. You say, are most of the security measures broken? We don't know. We have allegations. We have put them before you. We said they have been brought to our attention. We have received them. and we are not hiding them. We are pursuing them. We will go through these allegations because they are specific, will allow us to go through the layer of security measures that we have to see which of those have been breached and to see how they have been breached, because when we know, we will know how they have been breached. And we will share that with you. So you will know about this. We are saying these measures, some of them work individually, others work in combination. And that we will also be able to say and share with you. Yan, you raised a question about the smart card ID. Yes, it's true. Smart card ID, you don't affix anything to it. But there are other measures, as we have indicated. And these situations that we have already give us ideas about what the future could look like. We are already thinking the future. But this is what we are saying. It is not the whole integrity that has been put at risk. We will say these are the specific measures that we need to look at. So we will be able to say to you, we'll stand here, we'll face you, and we'll deal with that. Are we going to hide? I've already indicated there is no hiding place. In fact, we prefer it that way. We prefer that our nation, that the world at large would know, how confident we are or what it is that we are dealing with. Dr. Sipho, you say, when are we going digital? We at the Commission do a horizon scan very regularly. The last horizon scan we undertook, looking at a plethora of digital platforms, how they work. We did that and shared that with our nation and the international community. We had a huge international conference in this country where we presented a research report and said, these are the options that are available to us. We consulted with stakeholders in civil society, with political parties, with parliament. And at that point, South Africans were unanimous that given where those options place or rest in the world, we are better off with where we are. We need to look at them at another point. That's exactly what we have done. So it's not technology for the sake of it. There are countries that have adopted technology and they have reversed because there have been challenges with that. Ours is a process of being careful, of understanding what challenges we are facing and dealing with those challenges without looking back. Natasha says, is the IEC not worried? You said we're not worried about? Sorry? No, it's Sophie. I'll come to Natasha. I think you've got to look. I've captured it halfway through.
That our officials are ignorant.
Oh yes, that our officials are ignorant. I think the instances that we are dealing with will also help us to find out where, if any, there has been complacency. And we are saying we will not be able to hide that. And let me give a ridiculous example. If you say someone has come to a voting station, they were not registered as a voter, but they voted, it would have taken party agents of different political parties. It would have taken all of our officials. It would have taken all of the observers to do that. We'll be able to point that out and say, this is what happened. It then means the following thing. So we are saying we're not shy. We will look at those issues. Clement, you're saying, at what point do we pick up discrepancies? And this is the heart of the matter. Every step in the electoral process every critical step has a point at which we pause and reassure progress up to that point. In the instances that have been brought to our attention, we are already clear that we will pick up if there are any irregularities even before the results get to be processed. But to the extent that a result appears to be all right or good, there's nothing, there are other measures we can look at, and if we find that there is a problem, for example, the inbuilt exception reports, you know them as journalists because we share them with you. You will see them on our reports. When the results come here, your reports that you're looking at will say, so many results have been received by the Electoral Commission from voting stations. X amount of them have been captured. Of those that have been captured, Y amount has been audited. Of those that have been audited, Z amount have exceptions. And the rest are clean. The clean ones will end up on the screen. The ones that have exceptions are the ones that we will look at and we will go and cause them to be investigated to the extent that they need to be investigated. This is not new. We have always done it. And we are not going to shy away from it on this instance. In this instance, we will do that again. So I'm saying to you, there are points throughout the electoral process where we will pick these exceptions, and they will be transparent to you what those exceptions are. Ms. Sophie, you say stickers, given or not given, officials not being sure. The Chief Electoral Officer often says, you know, when you deal with human beings, there will be aberrations. They are not supposed to be the norm. We deal with exceptions. We train staff. They have competencies that they've got to show they have mastered. And there's a level, the certain level of proficiency we have to be happy with. Once they've gone through that, we then, you know, conclude a contract with them. Yes, it is so, or it could have been so, that some people in that instance that you say, you know, you witnessed it, I didn't, but let me say it happened, and it's very possible it happens. What happens when a voter approaches a voting station and they scan? That slip is not about them having voted. Let's clarify that, because in part of the confusion we're trying to clarify, it's in the instance that that slip might have been printed once or somebody has not been handed. That slip is to help facilitate the person marking off the voter's roll to say, voter so-and-so, Mosotho Moepia, on this segment of the voter's roll in this station is voter number 791. So you don't have to go the whole page and another page and another page. You go straight to 791 because they've already been located by the. That's really what it does. Facilitates the queue, tells us what time you came in there, leaves a record for us to check if we want to reconcile data we have on the zip with the data we have on the voter's roll that we have crossed. Those are the measures that we have indicated we deal with. In the event that I have omitted something, I'm sure my colleagues will help.
Ladies and gentlemen, this brings to the end the briefing for now. We have to see. Anything you want to deal with? Okay. CEO wants to clarify something. Let's hear.
Thank you very much, Kate. I think I'm sure my colleagues are ready that with that explanation out of the way, we are. Yeah. Yeah, we'll check out about it. I'm not quite following it. Yep.
I think Kelebetsu Hirana, Babon for Artlem. I never until I.
Yep.
Results take time.
Okay.
You guys
And
ready?
we're now going to bring all clean results.
Okay. All right. No, thank you very much, and thanks for indulging us. Now, with the explanation out of the way, we were beginning the process of projecting the results, and the results that you'll see here are clean. They're clean, verified, with no exceptions. There we go.
It's clean, eh?
You can see it's clean. Quite clean. And it's not. Okay, that's the VD, there it is. Is from the name of the voting station, Vomvo Lodge. That's the VD in relation to the ward. Now we are in suspense. Even I am in suspense. Yeah, I think.
Can I get that piece of paper so that we don't leave it there? Melanie, you're killing it.
This is what we have done.
They're saying that we must give it 5. Did you see their
5 seconds, 5
5
minutes.
seconds coming through?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
Melanie is killing us now.
You're live now with that briefing from the IEC, and here we are. We're waiting for the first results of this election. It looks like we have the first results. In fact, it is from Umzimvubu. It is a part of the Eastern Cape, also known as Mount Aleph. And from what I can see on the maps, now this is interesting. We're expecting the sort of official announcement of the result. We've been officially told where it is, and then there is a picture of the ANC logo on the map. So I'm presuming that that means that it's gone to the ANC. And if you can see me sort of looking above your head, it's because I'm looking at that map. In fact, maybe we can swing round and have a look at it and sort of do that and see the map, and we can see what we're actually looking at. It's a very interesting thing to look at. So let's just do that, and you can see that what is actually happening is this graphic that's been put up by the Electoral Commission. Let's speak for a moment, and we do need to actually say goodbye to you on SABC 2. It might be staying for some of the briefing just to see what comes next. next from the Electoral Commission. But with me here is Professor Mcebisi Ntletiana. Professor, I suppose in the Eastern Cape, we're not surprised if the ANC would take the first results from there.
As ANC country, rural areas, ANC is very dominant there. So this is not a surprise at all. I don't think the ANC even deserves or has to celebrate. It was always expected.
All right. I'm being told that SABC 2 viewers, in fact, will be with us until 4 a.m. or so there will be more information coming through for you on that channel. And, of course, stay with us here on the SABC News channel as well. We are expecting more results. I mean, you would expect that clearly this is a very small polling station. I mean, not a lot of people would have voted.
Well, the interesting thing about this, Stephen, is that at least we have the first results. That's historical, right? Umzimvubu are written into history.
Well, someone somewhere is probably having a party. In fact, they're probably asleep, and the rest of us are discussing their results. So obviously what you also would like to hope, I mean, what we have, and Simon Mabolo, the Chief Electoral Officer, was very clear to use the word clean. He said these are clean results. They've checked, and rechecked. This is becoming a small issue, let me put it like that for the moment, and see how it moves. But quite a strong riposte, I thought, from the Electoral Commission to its detractors through the day who've been making comments about the integrity of its processes.
I think they had to be quite emphatic on that. The question was raised repeatedly in the afternoon, and for some reason the CEO, Chief Electoral Officer, Simon Mabolo, did not address it directly and thoroughly. And they must have noticed that. And also you have this thing making the rounds in social media. And it's quite good that you had Musotu here, Miepe, right? Former...
There we go. We're going to take this result. This is Simon Mabolo's voice.
24. And you can see for yourselves there who is the leading party. You want me to say it? No, let's leave them for the benefit of your eyes and not for the benefit of your ears. Okay, thank you very much. That's your first result. And so on, it will now roll. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Well, the result there, and what you have, if you look at it, and I know Simon Mabolo didn't want to say it for various reasons, but you can see the ANC, this is a polling station, Professor, 24 votes cast, 11 of them went to the ANC, 8 went to the Economic Freedom Fighters, 1 went to the Pan-Africanist Congress, and 2 went to the UDM. I think on my maths it adds to about 24. The EFF will be quite pleased with that.
There will be 8 votes. It's not bad. It's not bad, especially for a place that looks like it could be a rural place. The EFF is, I don't know, it's there at least, whether it's making inroads into rural areas. We can't be that conclusive, but it's somewhere there.
I mean, it's very tempting for people like you and I to immediately jump to conclusions and all of that. I suppose we should inject a slightly boring note of caution and just remind everyone that, in fact, it's way too soon to make any kind of prediction. Even the good people from the CSIR won't be doing that.
Well, the party agent, ANC party agent who delivered this victory, will be praising himself, and he should be congratulated. At least the party won, yeah.
One of the things in a process like this is that once it starts, it can speed up quite quickly. And the point I'm trying to make is that it's been, maybe a wait of, say, 3 hours for the first result. 9 o'clock is when polling would have finished. They would have had to wait there. And now they're actually getting going. And so we would like to think that the results will actually now start to come in.
They will, Stephen. In fact, the CSIR fellow was telling us earlier that by 4 a.m., 5 later on this morning, they would know. They might just call them. So, yeah, the gates have opened.
Professor Ntletiana, if I could ask, if I could just speak to the Deputy Secretary General of the African National Congress, Jesse Duarte. Jesse, good evening to you. It's been quite a little while. Let me just give you those results again in case you missed them. The ANC winning the first results that have been announced in this election. And, of course, it's in Mount Aleph, Umzimvubu. 24 votes cast. The ANC winning 11, the EFF 8. And then we've got 2 votes for the UDM and 1 for the PAC. Jesse Duarte, good evening to you.
Good evening to you too.
And may I say congratulations congratulations on winning the first result.
Thank you. I think this is just the opening of the door. We're very happy that we won this VD. It is in a stronghold of the ANC in Elfenzo region, so you know it's expected. But let's wait for tomorrow, and we're going to wait very patiently. But thank you very much, and we'd like to thank the voters in Mount Elif for giving the ANC back their confidence for now, and we'll see what happens tomorrow.
I mean, obviously there's a lot more to come. Turnout is crucial. I know that the ANC, you have a very professional turnout operation. How did it run today?
It went well. Actually better than we expected, and we believe that South Africans came out in their millions to vote. Hopefully we'll see the results of that in terms of percentages. We were very impressed with Soweto, Tembisa. We were also very impressed with eThekwini. And also various parts of Limpopo, as well as the Eastern Cape. So it looks like people came out to vote. And we're not going to guess a percentage, but you know, our statistics are quite accurate. It looks like between 69 to 70% turnout. But let's see what the experts say tomorrow morning.
All right, just a hunch. I mean, you talk about Soweto, you talk about Tembisa high turnouts. That will give you a strong chance of keeping Gauteng, if that's the case?
We think we will keep Gauteng. We're not going to make pronouncements. Let's wait. I mean, you know, we're patient. We're waiting for the count, but we think we did fairly well.
Jessie Duarte, thank you very much indeed. The Deputy Secretary General of the ANC. I'm joined now by the National Spokesperson for the Economic Freedom Fighters, Dr. Mbuseni Ndlozi. Dr. Ndlozi, good evening.
Good evening, Stephen, and to the listeners and viewers at home.
So you actually took the ANC quite close in a way, the Eastern Cape, the Mount Elif, that Mzimvovo area. But Jessie Duarte, you heard her just say a moment ago, it's an ANC stronghold. They got 11 votes, you got 8.
Well, first of all, I want to thank our people for having given us confidence by voting for the EFF in the Eastern Cape in Mzimvovo. It's really a vote that we don't take lightly. There are no strongholds anymore. That's not a word that can be associated anymore with South Africa's democratic politics, and that's because of the presence of the economic freedom fighters. I think it's going to be a neck-to-neck like that. We're taking them on. Every street, every VD, every ward, every region and every province, we're taking them on like that. But most importantly, we thank the people of South Africa, particularly those 11 voters there in Mzimvobo, for giving it to the EFF.
All right, lots of conversations around turnout. Does a high turnout help you or hurt you? I mean, various people have various views on this. Some of the political sort of analysts I've spoken to, some of the people who are much better at maths than I am, suggest that, you know, a high turnout helps a governing party. Some people say it actually goes the other way. How do you see it?
I don't know that there is supporting evidence for this conceptualization, because the average turnout of votes in South Africa is 74, 73, 71 in the past 6 elections, at least national and provincial elections. And then 2016, the turnout was 58%, and in the local government elections before that, it was 55%. It didn't work for the ANC. I'm not sure where that theory comes from. It could be one of those either media incompetence in properly conceptualizing issues in public discourse, or just ANC propaganda. 71, 72, 73% is an average turnout. We haven't been in an 86% that was in 1994. And if you go there, the ANC didn't have about 2 provinces. So I'm not sure where that theory comes from. What I do understand is that the full force of South Africans came out, and that is good for democracy. That is good for the type of neck-to-neck that we are going to eat a lot, particularly in areas like rural Eastern Cape, rural KwaZulu-Natal. We have a stronghold, and we've entered that space. There's no stronghold for the ANC anymore. Those days are gone.
And then there's been a few questions around the integrity of the process, quite a strong response to that from the Electoral Commission. For the moment, are you satisfied? Obviously, you're still waiting for all your party agents to report back. You've got to wait for the counting to finish. For the moment, are you happy?
Look, I think that there is firstly a very worrying issue that the IEC has been extremely taking it lightly, that there was blatant racism in the Western Cape voting station in Winelands, which is very clear, and the ways in which they responded to that doesn't inspire confidence. That you could accept the coincidence that all white voters were not registered in that voting station, all black voters were registered in that voting station. They should zoom in, deal decisively with racial discrimination, not at this hour of South Africa's democratic life. That's the first important point, because we're not comfortable with racism. Black people should be able to freely move anywhere in South Africa. The second part is a rather laissez-faire attitude to this question of double voting, and the fact that there's not been a tight control of movements of people across provinces, across VDs, and they're in denial about the fact that their ink is removable. And I think that although it didn't happen at a large scale, it would inspire confidence for them to accept the responsibility and come out very clearly how they are going to deal with those irregularities. They are not doing that, and I think that it's going to backfire sooner or later.
Dr. Nduseni and Lozi, thank you very much indeed. Do appreciate it. National spokesperson for the Economic Freedom Fighters. All right, we'll bring you the latest from here. We've got Professor Mcebisi and Tletiana as well. For the moment, though, let's go back to Tsepiso and Griselda in our Johannesburg studios.